Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge. My co-host, Mike Slane, had a baby yesterday or the day before. So he is actually going to be out for 2 or 3 weeks. Newest member of his family. He had a little son. His name is Max. Super excited for Mike. But again, he will be back in a couple weeks. Today, I have a special guest, a personal friend. And I've known Chris Craddock, my guest, for I guess going on 3 years at this point now. Yeah. Give or take. Yeah, give or take. And Chris is the man. I have really enjoyed knowing Chris. He constantly is, bringing to light new products and new things that can help us in our business. So I always love talking with Chris and networking with Chris. And in fact, Chris and I, about a year and a half ago, went down to a little town in Texas, right outside of San Antonio, and we got to drive tanks. It was such a cool experience. Shot a flamethrower.
I just posted to a bunch of my buddies the tank stuff, and then you standing there with a flamethrower with a 25-foot flame coming out.
Yes,
crazy.
Yes, drive tanks, flamethrowers, machine guns, you name it. Such a cool experience. And right before we started this show, Chris said, "Are you going to come fly fighter jets with me in September?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I'm going to fly fighter jets with me." So we also share a need for speed and the adrenaline rush. And that's why I like Chris so much. We get along great. But Chris is here today to talk about REI Revive. And Chris has actually done some private coaching with me in the past on this very topic. And he has an amazing coaching program. And essentially, I'm going to let him explain it to you guys today. But it's an amazing program because he specializes in something that is so unique. And that is turning your leads that most people, let's say, would often just throw away and consider those leads to be, trash, into, profit generating leads. It's got a really cool strategy. So, Chris, thanks for joining me. I'm grateful to have you on the show, and I'm grateful for your time. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, I am so excited to be here. And yeah, that's one of the things that I love about my boy, David Dodge, is anytime there's fun to be had, I know he's going to be there. So that's like one of the great things. All right. I love whenever I teach sales, I'm a disc profile guy. And so, I'm a massive driven, driving, but also a massive I on the disc profile. And I think that whole, the interpersonal side of the disc profile, David Dodge, Double D, and I, both just want to hang out, have fun. And then, that D side, go and make a lot of money and build some big stuff, but then have fun too. Work hard, play hard. And
that's right. That. Work hard, play hard, man. That's exactly right.
Anyway, well, yeah, so excited to be here. And my story, I've got 11 businesses now, all in the real estate world. My biggest one is my retail team. We're going to do almost $6 million in commissions this year. And so, just build that up. But we also got title. My wife runs a lending business. We got insurance. We got construction, there's just all legal, shield, all these different businesses in the real estate world. But I've also got this coaching business where essentially what we do is if you are an investor, what happens is let's say you send out direct mail, or let's say you cold call or voicemail drop, you get 20 people that say, yes, I want to sell my property. You're going to find maybe 4 of them that want to sell at a massive discount. And
probably less than that, probably 1 or 2, really.
Right. And then you find one that says yes, but what about those other 19, right? You sign up one, what happens to the other 19? Another agent, another investor, somebody else gets paid on it, but it's not you. So what we've learned is, I call it upside down wholesaling, right? It's a way to make money on the leads that you've just been throwing away. So that's that whole thing is like, I mean, how many leads do you throw away? How many leads are in there? And I'll tell you, I have brand new wholesalers that I have trained, that I've worked with, that are making $10,000 to $15,000 a month on deals where they haven't even done that much a month in their wholesaling business, and they're making that on deals that they're upside down wholesaling. And then you see, I've got a massive wholesaler that I'm in business with, my personal retail team that we built this out with, and literally we're averaging sending him over $60,000 a month. So he's averaging $750,000 a year in revenue from leads that were just sitting dead in a CRM. So that's kind of our deal, man. It's been awesome. It's been crazy.
Man, that is awesome. That is really awesome. So how are people able to, if they have never heard of this particular strategy, can you do me a favor and break it down in terms of, some of the simple steps that people can take? And then obviously I want to know more about, your program, because I know you have students that you're meeting with, on a weekly schedule and, helping those people as well. But, basically how can somebody go about, turning a lead that they would, normally not make any money off of? Like you said, you get 20 or 30 leads. I mean, really in theory, like one of those may be a deal right away, like one of them, maybe two. Now, if you work those leads for 4 to 6 or 8 months, hopefully 4 to 6 of those will turn into deals, right?
Yeah.
But right away out the gate, typically 1 in 30 is going to lead to something, So time is your friend when you're an investor. Don't forget that, guys. You have to put leads in your system and you have to nourish those leads. You got to give them attention and follow up. It's super, super important. But Chris, I want to learn some of the strategies that you're using at this point to turn some of these leads that, that may be dead leads, and they may be dead leads today. They may be dead leads in 8 months from now. How are you able to turn those into cash?
Yeah. So here's the first thing I'll tell you. Like, now, if you don't have the whole system put together, then, having a bunch of people that raise their hand and say, yes, I'm ready, doesn't work. But you go to your CRM. Let's say, David, what do you think your average listener would have in their CRM as far as leads from the last, let's say 2 years?
I don't know, maybe 1,000.
All right. So I had actually a wholesaler in our area not too long ago that had 860 leads, right? That they were just sitting in there. So we sent this text to it, like just mass text to all the leads in their database and said, hi. And then it auto-populated their name. Are you still looking to sell your property if you got the right price for it? We set 29 retail appointments from that, 29, literally. And then just think about that. In an average market, let's just say a $250,000 average market, if you're setting 29 appointments, how many of those turn into deals, and how much money is that right there just being left on the table? We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that is just sitting there dying. So one of my favorite analogies is this. So these sawmills, they used to, they were just barely profitable. And sadly, David, I know you and I both know so many investors that are working hard, trying to make ends meet, but they're just barely profitable, right? And I think, when I talk to people all across the country, I see that over and over and over again as they're just trying to cross that bridge into profitability, right? And so what happened was one of them got this idea, the byproduct, the stuff they were throwing away, the sawdust in these sawmills, that they could repurpose. They could sell it for fuel, where people could burn it in their factories, where people could compress it and make particle board, just all the different things you can do with sawdust. And they started selling it. And so they went from taking the stuff they were throwing away to making almost as much money on the sawdust as they were on the wood that they were milling. And all of a sudden they went to being just barely eking by profitability wise to making a fortune. And so that's what we have done here, because everybody here, all the investors are looking everywhere to find sellers that are willing to sell. Well, you've got a lot of people that are willing to sell, and you can monetize those leads. Only the problem is most of the time they just sit and die in your CRM and somebody else makes money on it.
That is the truth, man. That is the truth. If you are not, giving them multiple options somebody else is going to come in and they will do that. I love it. So what would be your advice to somebody that, has a small operation, and let's say they've been in business for 1 or 2 years and they had 500 to 1,000 leads and they're not an agent though, right? If they are an agent, then they could go do the marketing to those existing leads, or another way to say that would be to just reach out to them in some way, shape, or form and ask them if they're interested in selling it, and then setting appointments, obviously, for themselves or their team. But if they aren't an agent, I'm sure you have some strategies that you could help, for that route.
Yeah. So if you are an agent, what I'd say, it just makes it easy because you can get referral fees and everything else. And I'll tell you, I don't think agents, a lot of times this is a problem. If you're an agent as well and you try to pivot over to the listing, you're like, hey, yeah, I can buy your house in cash for $115,000. And they say no, and they're like, oh, by the way, I could also list it for $250,000. You're not gonna pivot well. You need to have a handoff because they're just gonna look at you and be like, yeah, I don't want to work with you. Like, are you kidding me? Like, hey, you've lost all rapport. So that's why you need a partner. And what you're looking for is an agent that is happy, hungry, humble, and smart, right? That's it. Like, if they're not happy, they're going to look at the splits that you have and they're going to be really annoyed. If they're not hungry, they're just going to sit on their couch and they're not going to work. They're not going to work your deals like you work your deals. If they're not humble, they're not going to follow your system. They're not going to listen. They're not going to be growing. Your business grows to the extent that you grow. And if you're not humble, you don't grow. And if you're not smart, which is not just, high IQ, high SAT scores and all that, but also EQ, how do you deal with people? And also, here's the other thing. I've got a principle that we have for my family and for all my businesses, that we're quick learners, right? Keith Cunningham in the book Road Less Stupid, he talks about paying a stupid tax, right? So smart is also not being stupid, right? You don't make the same mistakes over and over and over again. When you walk in and somebody wants to sell and they don't sign an agreement with you, you got to figure out, what did you do wrong? Don't blame the seller. Don't blame some other agent. Don't blame anybody else. Blame yourself and just say, if I had Groundhog Day and I could have this appointment 100 times over and over and over again until I got it right, could I have gotten it right? And the reality is, most of the time it's yes. And then you say, what did I do wrong and how can I learn so I don't make the same stupid mistake over and over again and pay the stupid tax?
I love it, man. You're absolutely right. I love that. Love it. So bring in a partner that's an agent in the event that you are not. If you are an agent, then there's a couple of different strategies, right? Essentially, you are just going to find somebody to partner with, that's maybe not in your business, because you don't necessarily have to do that if you're an agent. You can do what's called get a referral fee. So if you're unaware of what that is, guys, if you are an agent and somebody coming to you as wanting to get to list their property and or buy a property and they need representation, you can refer them to another agent at a rate. Like, you can say, I want 25% or I want 35% of any money that you make from this customer, right? And can't really do that in a lot of industries, but in the real estate brokerage business, you can. And you can essentially, and I think one thing you had mentioned earlier that I want to circle back on just for a second was, you need to have a handoff. That's very important. If I go in and I offer somebody 110 grand for their property and they're asking 200, and then I turn around and I say, yeah, we might be able to get that 200 if you list it, but you should sell it to me for 110. They're going to be like, no, you're crazy. Right. And then they're not going to want to work with that person. It's just, you kind of burnt that bridge at that point.
Yeah.
Right? So having that handoff, I think, is very, very important, because, if you want to be the guy making the low offer as the investor, that's great. Be that guy, but hand it off to somebody else that can come in behind you as your partner. And they can essentially say, yeah, that guy's offer is crazy. If you need to sell it next Tuesday, though, he's a great option, but we don't need to sell next Tuesday. We got a couple weeks or a couple months. Let's get you a higher number. And then boom, now they're the good guy, and you get good cop, bad cop for the most part. And sometimes they will come back and they will take that offer. But most of the time, whenever somebody sells a piece of real estate, it's not a time intensive process, and they just want the most money. They would rather pay the mortgage for 2 or 3 or 6 months in some cases to get an extra $40,000 or $50,000 for the property. Right. So Chris, 100%. I love that, man.
100%. And the crazy thing is, talking about the agent side of the business real quick before we get back into the other things, success leaves clues. And I'll tell you, a lot of times people are so opposed to getting their license and your real estate license. And I'll tell you, you don't necessarily do it because you're going to do all of the pieces there. But I'm the biggest proponent of every organization should have somebody licensed in their organization. And Successfully Exclusive, every big real estate operation, wholesaling, fix and flip, they have somebody licensed in their organization. David, I know you're not licensed, but your business partner is. So you're technically, your organization is licensed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
We are.
LLC.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I give a lot of leads to my team that are licensed, so like some of the things that we do is, we use this as a tool to help our team members make extra money on the side. And some businesses would want that referral. We still get a piece of it from being the broker, right? Some leads though we will send out to a third party, somebody that we know will really be able to help that seller, right? Other times we'll keep it within our own organization and pass it up to a licensed agent and let them go earn the commission because, we may not, have paid them a whole lot recently or whatever. So it's just an added bonus that we're spending money on the marketing. We're generating the leads. Our core business is buying properties to rent out or to fix and flip. We wholesale a ton of properties that are just extra. And the leads that we can't wholesale, we can't buy to fix and flip, we can't buy to rent out. It's typically because we're not agreeing on price. I mean, that is usually the reason. Not always, but usually. And then from there, what we do is we'll say, hey, maybe we should hand this off, like we talked about, to somebody else on the team that's not going to come in with a low offer. And maybe they're willing to go talk to that seller and see if they're able to get a listing out of it. And that listing may or may not sell, but if you don't try, the answer is always no, right? And it is such a great, just way. I look at it like this. It's another tool in the belt, right?
Yeah.
If you show up to do a roof and all you got is a screwdriver, you're not going to get too far, man, right? You have to have the right tools to do the right job, right? And by having this tool in your belt, it's going to make your business more money. That's just the way it is.
The key here is every time the phone rings, you should be able to get paid, right? There's the sound bite. There's the clip. Every time the phone rings, you should get paid. And right now you have one tool. If you only wholesale or you only fix and flip, you've got a screwdriver and you're not going to get that roof on, right? Like that's the deal. You should be able to get paid. And so here's the other side of it. Most people, and I want to answer this question. Most people are like, oh, that's easy, right? Then I just get this, kick it over to an agent, and then I'm done. I'll tell you, this is where, this is why I have this program that I talk about, and this is the difference here. So me personally, I'll just tell you, I spend over 6 figures every year on coaching, right? And mastermind groups and being able to hang out with guys like David, right? Where David, I mean, I'll share this. We were hanging out after we were shooting tanks, sitting around a bonfire at a pool in San Antonio or whatever that little town is right outside. And we were all going around talking about the things that are going on in our business. And one of the things I said is, man, I'm interviewing people all day, every day, and it sucks the life out of me. I hate interviewing people. I'm not good at it. I don't enjoy it. It's just the worst. And I'll tell you, our friend Chris Arnold was like, why don't you hire a recruiter? And I was like, well, he's like, well, that sounds stupid. Why did you hire a recruiter? And I'm like, well, and then literally, like the next day I get back and our friend like Lars, who's also in our same mastermind, said the same thing to me. Like we were just talking about like pain. And he's like, why didn't you hire a recruiter? So I hear from 2 friends that I'm involved with because I paid to be a part of these organizations, right? Like that's it. Like I pay to be with people that know their stuff. And honestly, probably the biggest change in my whole organization over the last year was I hired a recruiter and I don't have to interview people all day, every day anymore. And I've added so much talent to my organization. So I go back to this other thing where you say, well, all you got to do is just get a real estate agent. Well, I'll tell you what, you look across the board and like so many of the big organizations, they're like, yeah, I do this, but I make no money on it. The organization that we send $750,000 to every year, when I first met them, they're like, Chris, look, we had our own brokerage at one point in time. We send all these out to everybody. We've tried all of these different things. And we've lost money or time every time we focused on it because we never make any money. In fact, we have one of the top agents in the world right now that we've given 1,000 leads to over the last 6 months, and she's closed 6 deals. They're like, it's not worth our time. And I just kept calling because I believe persistence breaks resistance, right? Like if you're in sales, persistence breaks resistance. So I kept calling and calling, and I think I built rapport. I think I'm a pretty nice guy. So they didn't want to like just be like, stop calling us. And so eventually they gave me 150 leads. I'm like, just give me some leads, give me some of these deals. Let me show you how you can monetize it. They gave me 150 leads. 70 of them had already sold to somebody. 30 of them were out of my area. And there was like 40 leads left. So if that math is right, but I had 40 leads and I was like, okay, I got to get 6 deals done because this other person got 6 done with 1,000. I got to get 6 done with 4. I ended up closing. I got 6 under contract, 6 listings signed on the market that I was going to be sending this group money. And I call them up. I said, hey, I got 6 signed. And they're like, what? They're like, Chris, why don't you come to the office? So I come into the office. They're like, hey, and this was early on in my career. So they didn't know me. I didn't know them very well, except I knew they were really big. I go in and they're like, Chris, we liked you. So we didn't want to tell you to like screw off. But here's the deal. We wanted to just like get you to stop bugging us. So we gave you 150 leads that I told them to get like leads that were like 5 years old so that you would like hit a brick wall and just leave us alone and stop calling us every week and be like, hey, let's work together. And he's like, you closed 6? Let's work this out. And literally since then, we got to the point where we're literally closing and I'm sending them over $60,000 a month every month on deals. Like, just think about that. I don't care how big your organization is. If you've got $750,000 in net profit that you've already paid for sitting in your database every single year, that changes your life. And so how about let's just bring it back down to scale, right? Let's say you don't have $750,000, but if you have $10,000 a month that just comes back into your organization that you're already paying for, that's sitting there as trash, it changes your life. And so everybody's like, oh, I'll just figure it out. I'll figure it out. Well, for me personally, I pay money for speed. And that's why, I've got this coaching business. And so many people have said, I'll figure it out myself. I'll figure it out myself. And the reality is I pay other people to get me there faster. And if you can make $10,000 a month, like you can figure it out, but maybe it takes you a year. How much does that cost you every month in a year?
Yeah,
pay for coaching. Pay for coaching. Like, don't just pay for mine. And if you don't have coaching in other places, I don't know, David, I know you have some free coaching. I know you have some paid coaching. Find people that are good at what they do. Pay for coaching. I do it. I'm not telling you this as somebody that doesn't do it.
Oh, yeah. I spend 6 figures every year paying for coaching too, man. Being in groups and going on trips to meet people and signing up for courses and jumping on Zoom calls. And there's some people that I pay hourly just to chat with. Right. So yeah, coaching, sense. I'm a huge proponent, huge fan of coaching.
Yeah. And so that's the whole thing there. You can figure it out on your own. And if let's just say it takes you 5 months to get where you'd be in 1 month, right? Well, how much money did that cost you, right? And it goes back to this idea. I'm curious, David, if I could bottle up what you know, like all of the knowledge inside of your head and give you a pill where you could go back 5 years from today and you know everything you know today 5 years ago, like everything. How much do you think you'd pay for that pill?
Oh man. It would be quite a pretty penny, man. I'd say, yeah, a couple $100,000 probably.
I mean, at least, right? I mean, I think my number is in the millions, right? Because you think about how, like, if you know what you know today, like my guess is if you actually sat down and thought about all the mistakes and all the things that you had to figure out over the last 5 years, like, I mean,
yeah, it'd probably be in the millions. You're right. I mean, if you think about all of the stuff, 5 years is a long time. That's a really long time.
And see, that's the whole thing. If I can, let's say I hire you as a coach, David, like if I can learn everything that you know now and basically compress all of that information into a short period of time and basically implement that, how much is that worth to me? Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's worth a fortune.
That's why I pay to be in these masterminds, right? I'm in a number of masterminds because just sitting there around that fire literally made me definitely over $100,000 this year, maybe a couple $100,000 this year, just by making that one hire there. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'll figure it out myself. I'll tell you, you're paying a stupid tax right there. Like learn to compress. Tony Robbins says, compress the decades of knowledge into days, right? Like learn to have the path instead of making the mistake. There's too much money to be made in this business to try to figure it out. That's foolishness. It's not wisdom. It's foolishness. So, and I say that as somebody that obviously I've got an axe to grind because I'm saying, hey, my course is going to make you a lot of money. And so people pay the money to be a part of this course. That'll make you a lot of money. But I also say that as somebody that spends over $100,000 every year to learn faster and to be around other people that are very, very smart people.
Man, I love it. Chris, where does somebody go to find out more about the course?
So chriscraddock.com, just my name. chriscraddock.com, CHRISCRADDOCK.com. My Instagram, basically people were so generous with me. I still remember the first time you and I met, like I was, our friend Chris, who actually was the one telling me to stop being an idiot and hire a recruiter. But our friend Chris, set us up and it was awesome. Like we just got to know each other on that call, everything there. But you were giving me a lot of information that I didn't know because I know you're big into the BRRRR, the BRRRR method, which I'd never done any BRRRR stuff. So Chris set us up and I just was able to give you a call. So I try to give back like people have been generous with me. And so if you seek me out, find me on Instagram at Cradrock, CRADDROCK. I reply to every DM. Now I'm getting more and more people hitting me up as I'm making that offer. So sometimes it's not within 24 hours, but I will.
Yeah, that's all right.
I promise.
Yeah. Totally get that.
I will reply. I promise. But yeah. And even if you're thinking about becoming an agent, I'll tell you, that's one of the other things is teaching you how to become an agent and how to use that well. I'd be happy to steer you in the right direction on that front too. But yeah, reach out at chriscraddock.com or DM me on Instagram. And if you are an agent and an investor, I also have a podcast. Obviously, you want to listen to this podcast, but I've read the study that says the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts. And so obviously this should be one of them. And I'd love to be one of your other 7. It's called Uncommon Real Estate. And actually David Dodge has been on here talking about BRRRR and everything else. So and it's
great. You guys have a great show over there. I like Uncommon Real Estate. It's a great podcast.
Yeah. So that's the deal. I'll tell you guys, I mean, that's what I can offer. I hope I'm not too blunt and too in your face on that because I just really believe that it's huge. And I think that a lot of people are never going to reach the true potential they have because they're being cheap and they're afraid to spend a little bit of money to have somebody teach them how to get there faster.
I agree, Chris, 100%, man. 100%. Having this tool in your belt, guys, is only going to make you more money. Chris is an expert on teaching you how to turn your trash leads into cash, right? And there's lots of different ways. It doesn't matter if you're licensed or not. He and I both encourage you to go get licensed or partner with somebody that is, right? So you can take advantage of the referral fees. And if not, you can run your own appointments with this, guys. But again, you have a lot of money sitting in your CRM. And Chris specializes on teaching people how to cash out, man, how to take those leads that, it doesn't matter if that lead's been in the system for 2 weeks or 2 years. And in some cases, 5, 6, 7 years, right? They at one point raised their hand. And if you are an investor, specifically a wholesaler, you're making really, really low offers, right? Well, that may not work for people, but there's still other options, man. I absolutely love it. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Guys, don't forget, you can connect with Chris over on Instagram. His handle is at Craddock, and that's CRADDOCK.
Actually, Cradrock, CRADDROCK. It's an old high school nickname. I should probably change it.
Got it. Okay, Cradrock. Thank you for correcting me on that. It's going to be added to the show notes as well, guys. And then, of course, Chris Craddock is his name.com, and that one is CRADDOCK. To learn more about his coaching program and the course that Chris offers. Chris, again, thanks so much for coming on. I can't wait to go fly fighter jets with you in about, was that maybe 5 or 6 weeks from now? It's going to be a awesome time. And again, we're going to get to sit around a fire by a pool, most likely, and talk about each other's businesses and see how we can help each other. And that's what it's all about. I love it. Chris, any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, just guys, activity and skill, right? Talk to more people. You're going to win if you do enough activity and skill. Do anything you can to level up, to grow faster, to get better as fast as you can. Activity and skill. That's what wins today.
Man, I love that. Activity. I'm taking that. I'm stealing that for sure. Activity and skill. Chris, thanks for coming on the show today. As always, much appreciated. Super grateful to have you on the show and grateful for your time. We will see you next time. Signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy, you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.